there, Mantaray79 here, and I'm back with another deck profile video for the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game. In today's video, the deck profile I'm going to be doing one for is the standard formats: Dragon Empires, Dragonic Overlords, with cards from D-BT06, Blazing Dragon Reborn. Alrighty then, let's get started. First off, let's get on to the right deck. And now for the right deck. For the cards in this right deck, we have Grade 0, Lizard Runner Undu, Grade 1, Embodiment of Armor Bar, Grade 2, Dragon Knight Nehalem, and Grade 3, Dragonic Overlord. The Grade 0 starting unit, Lizard Runner Undu. Like any other starting unit in the D standard format, he features only one skill. When rated on top of, if you're the second to go to Grade 1, you get to draw a card. The Grade 1, Embodiment of Armor Bar. His skills are, the first skill, as a Vanguard, when rated on top of by Dragon Knight Nehalem, by paying a counterblast of 1. If the cost has been paid, you may search your deck for any Grade 1 unit and add it to your hand. So ideally, this first skill will allow you to add maybe a Perfect Guard or any other Grade 1 that's mainly used for your deck's later game strategy. The Grade 2, Dragon Knight Nehalem. His skills are, the first skill, when ridden on top of by an Overlord, you may move Nehalem from your soul to the rear guard. So if this first skill, as long as you manage to ride an Overlord like Dragonic Overlord or Dragonic Overlord the end on top of Nehalem, you'll be able to secure yourself a rear guard Nehalem whose second skill will support your Vanguard Overlord later in the game. The Grade 3, Dragonic Overlord. His skills are, the first skill, as a Vanguard or a rear guard, whenever it attacks an opponent's rear guard, the attack cannot be blocked by your opponent with any cards in their hand. So with this first skill, you can more or less have a almost absolute attack on any opponent's rear guard, since your opponent cannot use any cards in their hand to guard with. And the second skill of Dragonic Overlord, as a Vanguard, once per turn, after this unit's attack hits, you may counterblast 1 and discard a card from your hand. If the cost has been paid, you may restand your Vanguard Overlord with the additional cost of reducing your Vanguard's drive check by 1. So with the second skill, it's more or less a standard restanding ability for the Dragonic Overlord series. And with that, we've just about covered the deck's right deck. Next, let's get on to the main deck. And now for the Grade 1 lineup. For the Grade 1s in this deck, we have 3. Twin Strike of Duststorm, Orlando. 2. Hephaestio Dragons. And 4. Twin Buckler Dragons. The Grade 1, Twin Strike of Duststorm, Orlando. Its skills are, the first skill, from the soul, whenever your opponent's rear guard was retired, you may counterblast 1. If the cost has been paid, you can superior call your Orlando from the soul to the rear guard. So for this first skill, if you play any decks that specialize in retiring or at least have a side bonus of retiring rear guards, if you're willing to pay for the plus, the counterblast 1, then you'll be able to superior call Orlando from your soul to the rear guard to serve as a possible front row attacker or back row booster, depending on how you like to play him. And the second skill of Orlando, as a rear guard, whenever your Grade 3 or higher Vanguard attacks, you may move Orlando from your rear guard to your soul. If the cost has been paid, then your Vanguard gets plus 5,000 power to the end of the turn. So with this second skill, whenever you choose to attack with a Grade 3 or higher Vanguard, if you don't mind moving your rear guard Orlando to the soul, your Vanguard will get plus 5,000 power till the end of the turn, which makes it a good support card for Vanguards that specialize in restanding and attacking multiple times, like the Dragonic Overlord series. The Grade 1, Hephaestio Dragon. Its skill is, as a rear guard, after boosting an attack from a Vanguard and after that said Vanguard restands, you may Soul Blast 2. If the cost is in paid, you can retire one of your opponent's great front row rear guards, and then you can give your Vanguard plus 5,000 power till the end of the turn. So this card is more or less a support card for Vanguards that specialize in restanding after attacking, like the Dragonic Overlord series. As long as you don't mind paying the hefty cost of Soul Blast 2, not only can you retire one of your opponent's front row rear guards, but you can also give your Vanguard another 5,000 power for its next attack. The Great One, Twin Buckler Dragon, Sentinel, Perfect Guard. Its skill is, like any other Perfect Guard in the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game, it features the same skill and activation. When used to guard with, you can discard one card from your hand and the attack is blocked. But like all other D standard format Perfect Guards, it specializes in another unique skill. The skill is, when used to guard with, if you have one or less cards in your hand, then you can guard your opponent's attack with no cost. So as long as you don't mind having an empty hand when it's time to use it, you can then use a Twin Buckler Dragon to perform a no-cost Perfect Guard, since his skill requires you to have one or less cards in your hand to do the no-cost Perfect Guard. So whether you like to prefer the discarding one to have a large number of cards in your hand, or emptying out your hand and then using his defense in the last resort, it's really up to you. And with that, we just about covered the deck's Grade 1 lineup. Next, let's get on to the Grade 2 lineup. And now for the Grade 2 lineup. For the Grade 2s in this deck, we have 4 Burning Horn Dragons, 3 Berserk Dragons, 3 Heat Stamping Dragons, and 4 Steel Bullet of Duststorm Ethans. The Grade 2 Burning Horn Dragon, its skills are, the first skill, when called onto the rearguard circle, you may counterblast 1. If the cost is in paid, you may check the top 7 cards of your deck for an Overlord and add to your hand. And in the off chance that you fail to add any cards into your hand by this unit's skill, you can countercharge 1. So this first skill, by calling Burning Horn, it's a good support card to help you increase the chances of adding a Dragonic Overlord to your hand. And the best part about this first skill, it's refundable. In the off chance that you fail to get any cards into your hand by this unit's first skill, you can countercharge 1, thus allowing you to refund the counterblast 1 that was used to pay for this first skill. And the second skill of Burning Horn Dragon, as a rearguard, whenever your Vanguard Overlord attacks, your rearguard Burning Horn gets plus 5,000 power. So this is more or less another way to support the Dragonic Overlord series from the front row, since whenever your Vanguard Overlord attacks, it gets plus 5,000 power. And the best part is, this skill is stackable, since the Dragonic Overlord series specializes in restanding and attacking multiple times. For every time your Vanguard attacks, you can just keep on stacking the power onto Burning Horn, making him a very powerful front row attacker for you to use for your Dragonic Overlord decks. The Grade 2 Berserk Dragon, its skill is, whenever it attacks, if your Vanguard is an Overlord, he gets plus 5,000 power until the end of battle. And a skill, the skill is, by counterblasting 1, if the cost has been paid, you can retire one of your opponent's Grade 2 or less rear guards. So with Berserk Dragon, he's more or less a 15,000 point attacker for the Dragonic Overlord series, and also a good way to clear your opponent's field of rear guards by paying a mere counterblast of 1. The Grade 2 Heat Stamping Dragon, one of the new cards released in the D-BT06 set. Its skill is, as a rearguard, whenever your Vanguard attacks, and if your opponent has 2 or less rear guards in their field, you can move your rearguard Heat Stamp into your Vanguard Soul. If the cost has been paid, your Vanguard gets plus 10,000 power until the end of the turn. So this skill is a good support card for the Dragonic Overlord series, since as long as you don't mind taking time to clear your opponent's field of rear guards, when it's time for your Vanguard to attack, you can move Heat Stamp from your rearguard to your soul, and thus giving your Vanguard a total of 10,000 power increased for its multiple attacks. So more or less the Grade 2 Heat Stamp Dragon is a good support card. The Grade 2 Steel Bullet of Duststorm Ethan, its skill is, as a rearguard, whenever your Vanguard's attack hits, you can retreat Ethan from your rearguard. If the cost is paid, you may draw 1 card and countercharge 1. So with Steel Bolt of Duststorm Eaton, it's more or less an improved version of the Grade 1 Dragon Monk Gojo D standard format, where Dragon Monk Gojo's skill only works when it boosts a successful attack from your Vanguard. Eaton's skill allows you to use his skill regardless of where he is in the field, as long as your Vanguard hits, that's all that matters. Thus, also, it gives an additional bonus to let you draw one card, thus making this a pretty essential card for the Dragon Empire decks, as since he lets you not only countercharge one to increase the number of counter blasts you can have, but he can also let you restock your hand by letting you draw one card. And with that just about covers the deck's Grade 2 lineup. Next, let's get on to the Grade 3 lineup. And now for the Grade 3 lineup. For the Grade 3s in this deck, we have 3 Dragonic Overlord, the classics, and 4 Dragonic Overlord, the ends. The Grade 3 Dragonic Overlord, the classic, one of the main Grade 3s to run in this deck, but since I've already explained this unit's skills during the Ride deck chapter of this deck build, let's just skip and get on to the next card. The Grade 3 Dragonic Overlord, the end, another one of the main Grade 3s to ride in this deck. Its skills are, the first skill, during your turn, if you have Dragonic Overlord, the classic, in your Vanguard Soul, then this unit gets plus 5,000 power and its drive check cannot be reduced. So if you choose to take the long way approach to first ride Dragonic Overlord, the classic, then cross ride to Dragonic Overlord, the end, then during your turn, the end will always have a continuous plus 5,000 power and its drive check cannot be reduced, which is one of the other costs for its restanding ability, which I'll explain now. The second skill of Dragonic Overlord, the end, as a Vanguard, once per turn, after attacking, you may counterblast one and discard 2 cards in your hand. If the cost has been paid, you can then restand your Vanguard at the cost of reducing your Vanguard's drive check by 1. So like I mentioned before with the first skill, you can stop the minus drive by having a Dragonic Overlord, the classic, in your soul, mainly by riding Overlord first, then only cross-riding the end, thus giving you at least 2 twin drive attacks with the second skill, as long as you choose to take the long approach of riding and then cross-riding later. And with that, we just about covered the deck's Grade 3 lineup. Next, let's get on to the trigger lineup. And now for the trigger lineup. For the triggers in this deck, we have 1. Dragon Deity King of Resurgence, Drag Vita, over trigger. 4. Burning Flail Dragons, critical triggers. 4. Blazing Dual Monk, Sogyo, critical triggers. 3. Flare Veil Dragons, draw triggers. 2. Stealth Fiend, Amaviras, heal triggers. And 2. Cure Flare Draco Kids, heal triggers. Grade 0, Dragon Deity King of Resurgence, Drag Vita, over trigger. Its skill is, like any other over trigger, when revealed in a drive check or damage check, by removing this card from play, you can draw 1 card and give 1 unit on your field 100 million power. But there's also an additional ability for Drag Vita. When revealed during a drive check, you can also stand one of your Vanguards. So this over trigger is more or less specialized for giving your Dragon Empire Vanguard an additional attack by restanding it, making it a good card to use with the Overlord series. The Grade 0, Burning Flail Dragon, critical trigger. Its skill is, as a rear guard, after the battle where it boosted, you may move Burning Flail from your rear guard to your soul. If the cost has been paid, you may give 1 unit on your field plus 2,000 power till the end of the turn. So with this skill, Burning Flail is a good way to not only give one of your remaining units like your Vanguard or rear guard additional power, but to also restock your Vanguard soul for later Soul Blast costs. The grade 0, Flare Veil Dragon, draw trigger. Its skill is, when used to guard with, if your Vanguard is at grade 3 or more, then it gets plus 5,000 shield until the end of the turn. So with this draw trigger, Burning Flow can serve as a 10,000 point shield as long as you get to grade 3, making it a decent defense despite having only 5,000 base. Its skill will make it more powerful in the defensive wise. The grade 0, Stealth Fiend Amavira, heal trigger, counter heal. Its skill is, when used to guard against an attack that a unit that has attacked twice or more in the turn, she gets plus 15,000 shield until the end of the battle. So for example, if you use her to guard against a Vanguard or rear guard that has attacked after restanding, she becomes a 25,000 point shield, making her a good way to guard against units that specialize in restanding their Vanguards or rear guards. The grade 0, Cure Flare Draco Kit, heal trigger, heal guardian. Its skill is, when used to guard against an attack whose critical was risen to 2 or more, not by base critical or drive triggers, then he gets plus 15,000 shield until the end of the battle. So for Cure Flare, he's a good way to guard against units like the Vanguard or rear guard that powers up its critical by skill or card effects. But like I said before, it only works against skill and card effects, meaning criticals that have risen by base critical or by drive triggers will not be counted for this skill. And with that just about covers the deck's trigger lineup. For the triggers in this deck, we have 1 over trigger, 8 critical triggers, 3 draw triggers, and 4 heal triggers. And now, after just having explained the deck's build and card effects, let's get on to explaining the deck's main playstyle. So for the main playstyle of this deck, first you just have to normally ride the Riot line up to the grade 3 Dragonic Overlord. Then on your next turn, you cross-ride the Dragonic Overlord the end on top, and then secure onto your field. Try to have a Hephaestio Dragon on the middle back row column behind your Vanguard, and then call upon the other support cards, perhaps mainly the Heat Stamping Dragon and perhaps even Orlando. So when it's time to attack with your Vanguard, you can use both of their skills to stack an incredibly high amount of power onto your Vanguard. And not only that, stock up your soul to use when it's time to activate a Hephaestio Dragon after your Vanguard restands. You can use the said cards you use to move into the soul to Soul Blast for its hefty cost, to not only retire your opponent's rear guards, but to also increase your Vanguard's power. So overall, that's the deck's main playstyle. You first ride normally until it's time to cross-ride to Dragonic Overlord at the end. Then try to clear your opponent's field with rear guards beforehand. Then when it's time to attack with your Vanguard, try to gather the support cards, like the Heat Stamping Dragon or Orlando, who can, whenever your Vanguard attacks, you can move into your soul, using their respective skills to stack a huge amount of power into your Vanguard for his multiple attacks. And then you'll have Soul Blast material to use for when it's time to use the Hephaestio Dragon skill to not only clear your opponent's field of more rear guards, but to give your Vanguard even more power to attack with its multiple attacks later on. So overall, that's the main playstyle. Use your rear guard skill to stack your Vanguard's power, increase your soul, and do Soul Blast and wipe out your opponent's field. And with that just about explains the deck's main playstyle. And with that, just about pretty much covered the deck's main deck build, the card effects, and the main playstyle meant to be used with this deck. So first off, I want to say thank you to the viewers for watching today's video, and to please stay tuned for more videos I plan to upload again in the near future. I also hope you all show your support by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing to my videos and channel. And with that, I say goodbye and see you all soon.